If you haven't seen my previous video on rigging slalom race sails, make sure that you click on this link. I'll put it up here for you, and go and check out that video after you've watched this Q&A. This is all about that content and the amazing questions that I received after creating that video. I would say the first thing to take note of when your board is constantly wanting to go into an upwind direction and you keep on trying to get it to go downwind, especially when the wind picks up so strong. One of the issues could be that your fin is too big. Switch your fins in for a much smaller size fin, and going downwind and staying on a downwind run would be a lot less effort and would be much more controllable for you, and you will get a lot more speed with a smaller fin. I've noticed that most of the learning gear, the boards come with massive fins, like these heavy things, and I always look at it and I think, oh, that is going to be bad news, especially when the wind is going to pick up. So it's really important to ask also for a small fin when you are learning how to windsurf, if you're getting into it. The fin size is absolutely vitally important, and I think that is probably one of the biggest things that puts beginners off of windsurfing, is when they go out there with these big fins in that I wouldn't even be using. So make sure your fin is small enough. It is also very much likely so that your board size is too big, so go down on a smaller size board that you can easily manage to go downwind. I've got a lot of experiences with regards that on my 107 Isonic and my 6.2. When that wind picks up above 20 knots, I definitely struggle to get that board to go downwind sometimes, even if I've got a very small fin in. The moment I switch over to my small board, my small Isonic or my Fox, going downwind is a lot less effort. When the wind picks up strong and they try to do downwind runs, they make the mistake of pulling in the outhaul when they feel overpowered. So going downwind, it's a lot more beneficial for you to release your outhaul, to have a much bigger belly in your sail, whether it's a soft sail or a free race sail or a full-on race sail. Definitely give the sail some breathing space when going downwind, because you'll be in a much more stable position than when your outhaul is too tight, and you will get a lot more backhand pressure trying to go downwind. It will also affect the way the board behaves in that situation when your outhaul is way too tight. Also try to move your mast track a little bit forward. That will also help to get the board's nose to turn downwind, and that could also help to keep that board's nose down so that you can stay on the plane to build higher speeds. So what he is also specifically referring to is when there is when you are not planing, when you are standing still and that wind suddenly comes and you are trying to turn downwind. Sometimes it's better, before going downwind from 0 to hero, try to stay into an upwind line for a few seconds. Just get on that momentum, get on the plane. Don't go and turn downwind from nothing to everything. So just get some momentum going, get the wind at an angle in your sail, and then as you get the momentum, then you can turn downwind. If you are standing still and you're trying to move downwind, try to lean your mast a little bit forward, and instead of leaning with the sail backwards the way you would if you're on a full speed plane. It's also ideal to have then specifically your harness lines closer together. That will allow the sail to breathe, because that impact of that sudden wind in your sail, if your harness lines are too wide apart, you are going to be pulling back the whole sail onto you, and you are going to kill off a lot of power. If you fall while practicing planing jibes, your sail would most of the times fall in a diagonal angle towards your board. It won't hit the board on the nose full on. So I would say go for it. Practice your planing jibes with full confidence and full commitment. The two things that really is a big risk with regard to your board when practicing them is a quick tack and a duck jibe, because with those movements, if you get it wrong, that mast will be more likely to slam right onto your board's nose. So I asked him what kind of harness he uses, and he says he uses a waist harness. I don't think the harness line length is the problem. I think the problem there is that your boom is a little bit too low. You are sailing a little bit down here, so the harness line keeps on hooking out easily. So just move the boom up a little bit, especially if you're a little bit taller. So this is also why I referred to in that video of measuring from your one palm to your other with regards to the boom height, so that the boom isn't too low for your personal length. You are sailing onto your arms too much, so you're not really leaning back into your harness. You're not trusting your sail and your board and your fin enough to lean back and to let go of the boom. So a lot of people in the beginning, I find that they really clench onto the boom and they don't notice it, but they actually pull the sail back and the harness line slips out. practice on a very easy lighter wind day to let go of both your hands, get your position of your harness line correct so that you can see how that sail is being balanced only by your body. Then you know you have got the sweet spot with regard to your harness line positioning. When you are using some of the older harness lines, which were very like swinging, that they are not rigid onto the boom, so there's the point of where the stitching is onto the harness line, they go into a swinging motion, and that can be super frustrating. So make sure that you get proper harness lines, a pair that stands stiff. I personally find that when I am in this position with my hand turned downwards, I do not have as much pulling power in the front hand as when it is turned in this direction, because if you look at how the bicep muscle in the arm works, in this angle you have got a lot more power than you would have in this angle. It's also depending on what you are used to. So some people still prefer sailing like this, and there's nothing wrong with that. Mostly the people who use seat harnesses with a much lower setup will most probably be sailing like this. This will definitely depend on the type of board that you have and the conditions that you are sailing in. So for instance, with my Fox Severne board, I love to put that mast track way in front of my board. Rani, kom sit hierso, kom sit hier. Because it helps to keep that board's nose down. It's just the way that board is designed. It's definitely board specific. With my Isonics, I love to have my mast track a little bit more centered on the board. When your board feels like it constantly wants to go upwind, it is better to push the mast track a little bit more forward. And also, if you feel like you're not getting enough forward momentum and power, it really helps to push the mast track slightly forward. Your mast track position will also greatly depend on what height your boom is. When I put my boom lower and I move the mast track slightly forward, I get so much more speed and power and stability out of my setup. I've seen pro windsurfers sailing with one hand holding onto the Uphaul line. Is it a skill only applied to RSX, or could it be used in slalom as well? I've definitely seen guys in slalom racing, especially in Mauritius, doing that, holding onto that Uphaul rope, mainly on the start line, when they want to get a maximum amount of power in the sail and they want to get going really fast, because it just gives you that much more room to play with your sail and the distance it is away from your body. So especially in a place like Mauritius where the wind is super light, if you're losing a lot of wind, you can really let that sail far away from your body to get proper wind into the sail and get going faster. So this is quite a common problem. I find it amongst our local windsurfers here and the friends that I sail with, and even myself. Especially when you are using the waist harness, you tend to have a lot more power coming from your core muscles. And one thing that people don't really understand is that your core and your back are all linked into one. So if your core is weak and you have got weak abdominal muscles, naturally your back muscles are also going to be pretty weak, and you'll definitely find that when you are sailing with a waist harness, especially when you are going upwind or slightly upwind, you can find that these lower back muscles really starts to hurt. This is really why I highly suggest doing a lot of core based workouts. It took me about a year to build up a really strong core. When I first started to notice this, I really switched over and focused so much on core based workouts, not just doing a few sit-ups every day, but all the core muscles, going from your back, upper legs, even into your groin muscles, your lower abs, your upper back and your lower back, and you can maintain good strength in those muscles. It will be so beneficial for you when you slalom sail, and trust me, I don't feel any more back pain after I have done so much more core based workouts. I feel that a lot of guys, they focus so much on their getting really super strong arms and super strong legs, and they do a lot of running and cycling, but they definitely neglect the core muscles and the back muscles. If you need to make that switch and you want to do more core workouts, you can obviously also look at some of my other videos on my channel. I'm definitely covering a lot of specifically women's fitness, but all my workouts are very core focused and core based. So that is the kind of thing that even for guys would be super helpful if you incorporate some of those movements into your daily workout routines. When you are going to be choosing on a budget between the full carbon booms or an alloy boom, that will not have a massive impact on your performance or enjoyment of your session. The Severne Enigma carbon booms are the lightest and the stiffest boom of the whole range. I would say the stiffness of that boom is probably its outstanding characteristic when it comes to comparing it to the other booms. It's more about the profile of that boom. Rather make sure, instead of worrying about having the most expensive full-on carbon boom, rather focus on getting a boom that is wide enough for your race sail. I would say that's your priority when looking at booms. The Enigma race booms of Severne are the stiffest, the lightest, and I think they are the most durable booms. So they're going to last you for many years. But I know that they are very expensive, so obviously there's a lot of people who are having to make this compromise. I really seldomly do grip specific exercises, as in those resistance things that you press to strengthen your grip muscles. That is an option if you want to be doing that stuff, but I would say the core problem is not with your grip muscle strength. It's more with regards to the way you sail and your sailing technique. So if you find that your grip muscles get sore, most probably you are sailing way too much onto your arms. So it would be really beneficial for you to drop your boom slightly lower and to lean back more, to get your harness line positions in that exact sweet spot and where you can really sail almost hands free. You should actually at any point in time be able to take off your hands off the boom, and that sail should be in control. So the further away you can get from your sail, the more control you will have, the more that sail will be pulling on your body and not on your arms. When your arms are super straight, personally for me, I have a lot more power at this angle than I would have at this angle. The same thing was for me at Dudrits. So with slalom sailing, like I said, my harness lines are 26s, and that keeps my arms closer to my body. They are not like here on top of me, they are at a nice comfortable distance, but it is so easy for me to actually let go of that boom. Everything stays in control, and if I do need to make fine adjustments, I've got way more leverage at this point. Your arms should not be doing the work. A lot of people think that you need to have such strong arms, you need to have like heavy muscle bulk in order to manage these sails in these conditions. But if you feel your arms are getting tired every single time when you sail, and you feel like you just keep on needing to lift more weights, you must rather go back and check your technique and your setup. Wrap your boom in with that medical band tape that I referred to in my video. It really helps with grip so that you don't slip, because some people really struggle with their older booms that gets really slippery, and then you can't get a really nice grip onto them. Your hands keep on slipping in an angle. I hope this helps, and if this was applicable to you and you find my videos helpful, consider subscribing to my channel. Keep your questions coming, things that you have been struggling with or things that you're unsure about, and comment below if you have had these experiences that I've just explained, the questions that these guys have been asking me, if you have found the same issues when you are rigging your sails or when you are sailing out there with your gear. Doesn't matter if it's Severne gear or whether it's Neil Pride, whether it's Gastra, whatever brand it may be. These topics are very global, so they would be applicable to a lot of sail brands.